Hello, everyone, and welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the home straight. International football week is behind us. Rangers return on Saturday. Who won't be excited by that? Panel is, that's for sure. I am joined tonight by Sheryl Ritchie. Sheryl, good evening. How are we?
Good evening. Lovely to be with you. I missed you both terribly since our time together on Friday, so I just had to be quite insistent that we're back together on Monday night.
Yeah, we did road trip it down to Blackpool to play the Gallant Pioneer, which was an experience, Sheryl, to say the least.
It was an experience, but it was made better by the lovely people that were there, by my DJ skills, and also by Marks and Spencer Mini Bites, who we should maybe try and be sponsored by from now on.
Yeah, we'd certainly take a sponsorship off Marks and Spencer's, Percy Pigs and Mini Bites. I am available for sponsorship, Marks. Just get in contact. Kenny, good evening, mate. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Busy day at work, so rushing about to get here and glad to be here.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. We are ready to go. Plenty to talk about, and even for an international break, that's quite strange. So we start off. The club are set to appoint Scott Fry as set-piece coach. Scott Fry is at Lincoln City, worked with Kevin Thelwell at Wolves for a number of years, so he is known to the new manager. Don't let that, to Kevin Thelwell, the sporting director, don't let that put you off, because Scott Fry is a very interesting character, Sheryl. He has got some record with set pieces with Lincoln. Lincoln, one of the top performers. They've faced 92 corners this season already, conceded from only 3 of them. And of 64 games, of 64 goals last year, 30 of them came from set pieces. This guy comes with a reputation. So we can park the Thelwell stuff at this moment in time. I think if there wasn't a connection there, people would actually be looking at this and thinking it's a particularly good move.
It is. Do you know what? It's the one area I think that we used to, you could almost kind of guarantee that a few years ago when Tav went up to take a free kick, there was a very, very good chance that if it didn't go in, it would certainly hit the target. We've been absolutely murder at set pieces for a long time, scoring them, putting them away, and also conceding from them as well. So like you, I did a wee bit of research this afternoon, Stevie, and the 30 goals I think would be massive for us. Am I right in thinking that was part of Roy Mackay's old remit? When he was with us, he did the kind of set piece stuff. I think we've missed that. I think we need it desperately. And again, from what I did a wee bit of research, he does a lot of work with the analysts. And he also does stuff from kickoffs as well. It's not just corners and free kicks. He also kind of looks at routines from every stoppage in play and restart. So I think that could be huge for us.
Yeah, it's marginal games, Kenny. Put my teeth in. It's marginal gains, Kenny, that we need to get better at. And, those sort of stats at Lincoln, and we've looked particularly dodgy. It's interesting since Danny Rule's coming in. We've actually scored a couple of set pieces. We scored against Dundee, obviously, Nico Raskin, and Chermiti got one in the home game from the free kick against Kilmarnock as well. So it's marginal gains that we need to be doing better with. But if we can start posting the same kind of results that Lincoln have, 30 goals from set pieces, yeah, give me some of that, please.
Well, of course. However, I think it's certainly a level up. So we'll see how it equates to the kind of numbers and stuff like that. But what I would say, does he deal with throw-ins? Because if he can deal with throw-ins, oh my goodness, I can't wait. Because some of our set plays and set pieces are rotten. I mean, they're just terrible to watch at times. And you know yourself, Steve, if we had any here, we'd be pulling it out because it's terrible to watch sometimes. So someone like this is much needed. There's no doubt in that. But like the two of you, I did a little bit of research on it. And as Sheryl says, he does a lot of work with the analysts and stuff like that. And it's stuff like the restarts where if you actually watch us, even under Clement and Barry, and now up to this point under Russell Martin this season, when we're taking even a bye kick, if you want to call it that, we can't play out. An awful lot of the time we really struggle. So for me, it's much, much needed. The stats with this guy, are through the roof over the last 18 months or so. The only thing I would say is that without putting too much of a dampener on this, the optics of it, along with some of the other news we're going to talk about, the optics are not great looking. You just think, wow. But on this particular appointment, I do agree with the Perry. I think this looks like a proper, decent appointment for us. And here's hoping he comes and he helps this team, because this team needs it.
Right, look, we'll park the optics for a minute, because I know there's some quite obvious stuff. We'll do a two for one, because we're going to talk about something else in a wee second, which involves Kevin Thelwell also. Look, Rangers need a set-piece coach. We defensively have looked awful. Attacking-wise, it's marginal gains, very, very marginal gains. We need to turn. We're not good enough to have 10 corners in a game and look absolutely hopeless for them. We need to try and gain things from that. We've got big guys who don't seem to win headers, don't seem to dominate in the box at all. That was one of the majorly frustrating things about the semi-final a couple of weeks ago. We never won one header in the box, it felt like. So we need to turn these things into gains for us where Rangers can get better. So, Sheryl, from my point of view, we'll park the Thelwell stuff. Rangers needed a set-piece coach. We can't go and get Arsenal's one, which would be the obvious one that everybody would want, because he's the one that grabs all the headlines, and they're absolutely fantastic. And by the way, when you watch them, it looks so simple. They've got Declan Rice, who's probably one of the best set-piece takers in the world at the moment, so that makes it a bit easier. But it would be nice if, from throw-ins like Kenny commented on, from set pieces, no matter where it was, corners or outside the box or whatever, if we could start adding some danger to that. Because like you say, that 55 season, Tav was coming up and belting them from all directions. We were getting good deliveries. And whilst I don't want to turn it into a James Tavernier bashing session, most of the corners we seem to hit nowadays don't go past the front man. And I can't help but think a little bit of movement. And I remember when we had that 55 season, the one to the front post and Aribo kind of flick on seemed to happen quite a lot, and we've never seemed to have a routine like that anymore. So honestly, I realise he's coming from Lincoln and he's stepping up to us, but fundamentally, you know, it doesn't matter where you're playing or who you're playing with. Set pieces are all the same. So it's about utilising the best players and the best set piece routine. So I'm all for this. I'm really welcoming of this guy coming in. I think it's a real positive.
Okay. Do you know what? Back in that 55 season, Stevie, see when we didn't have Tav, we had Borna. But now we don't, we have Tav or we have nothing. Am I right in thinking that we were kind of promised that Joe Rothwell was a dead ball specialist as well? So even if we can get...
Yeah, but we were also promised that he could run. So...
and that he would last 90 minutes as well. So I know. But even if we can, I don't know, work on these, improve them and get other players involved as well, because we know, we spoke about it on Friday, and like you say, it's not a Tav bashing session at all, but we need to have other players that are able to take free kicks, that are able to put in corners and get these routines worked on and producing goals. That was one of the things that I liked about Miovski, Tall, same with Sharmiti, headers in the boxes. Like you said, like the goal Dundee was Raskin, one of the smallest men on there. So we need to get these sorted out, and we need to get goals from them as well.
Well, height isn't everything, Cheryl. It's how you use it. Kenny, just want to come to you. Thank you, David Bell, for your donation to the channel. Much appreciated. Not needed, but we really do appreciate it. Kenny, Rangers also about to appoint Jonathan Hunter-Barrett, who will start as a new director of Rangers Academy. Again, he's worked with Kevin Thelwell for a number of years at Wolves. This was something that we broke and spoke about just before the Rangers news, Rangers Review, that actually a month or so ago. It's been on the cards for quite a while. Our good friend Willie Irwin, who is the bastion of all knowledge with youth teams, gave us a bit of a shout on this one. Yeah, it looks again like he's going to be coming in. The positives, Kenny, here, as I said, let's park the optics in Kevin Thelwell for one moment while we deal with what's actually happening here. Is it looks like Rangers are building a foundation to the football club, which we've asked for a number of years. It looks like they're filling key positions. It looks like they're bringing in guys that will hopefully strengthen us and seem to be the right position. But, you know, Whether they're going to be good enough, we're just going to have to wait and see. But that academy hasn't been right for a long time. So it's about being able to put in the right people in there and hopefully try and get a return. But this isn't going to be an overnight thing. You know, Jonathan Hunter-Barrett is going to need 3-4 years to finally turn that place around. And it really does need that. This needs to be a long-term thinking appointment. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can fulfill that, because it's certainly needed.
It is. It's long been a bugbear of mine, the academy, and how poor it is in comparison to a bygone era where I did a little bit of digging on this boy today also, and what I found that I found an article from about 5 years ago when he had just been promoted. He wasn't the manager of the academy down there. He was what I can't remember the exact term of the role, but he was talking about what his role within that was going to be at Wolves, and Wolves had decided back then that what they were going to do was not try and bring necessarily players from their academy into Wolves' first team, just at the point when they got promoted to the Premier League. What they were going to do is try and sell them on. And they were talking about Chelsea and Man City and being the examples of how it's self-sustainable by being able to produce your own talent. And they might not be good enough for your own club, but they're more than capable of being a professional footballer, and you can earn from doing that. And it's kind of what I've been crying out for a long, long time with Rangers, because if you look back to I know I'm a wee bit older than you, Stevie, but to our younger days, the amount of boys that would come into that team, Walter's first team, and they would come in and they'd only play 10, 20 games, 30 games tops, but they would move them on. They'd sell them for £500,000 to £250,000. You would do it all the time. And all that money racks up. And that's what I'm kind of looking for from this particular appointment. Very interesting, as I say, when I read that, and I think it was from The Athletic from about 5 years ago, that they were actually talking about exactly what Wolves Academy was going to do. And that's when Kevin Thelwell was there. So I presume that it's a similar kind of remit that the guy's going to have, Stevie, is to actually produce players, but not necessarily for our first team, just get them to a level. And a very distinct thing that the boy said in that article was that the first thing they do with a lot of young kids is tell them the chances of you ever becoming a professional footballer are very, very slim, which I think that Rangers have went about that really wrong with. I've known a lot of kids over the years that have been in the Rangers Academy, and they've got, without being too dramatic or cheeky about it, about certain kids, they've got a real arrogance about them. They're at Rangers and they think they've been brilliant. You've done nothing. You're only in an academy. And I think that the education situation on that is what I want to see. Educating kids, getting them player ready, if you like, that they can turn around and play the game at a level and we can make a profit on it. So I'm quite excited about it. I've got to say, I'm not, as I say, we'll talk about the optics maybe, but I actually think this might be a very good appointment, Stevie.
Well, we certainly have to hope so, Sheryl. I don't have an abundance of knowledge on Jonathan Hunter-Barrett, I'll be quite honest with you. Scott Fry makes it, I think he's a bit more exciting, isn't he? Because he's more about goals and everything in the academy director thing. We all perhaps wanted somebody local, perhaps it was a Kevin Thompson flying about name-wise, but that's never really ever materialised with Tomo. But for Jonathan Hunter-Barrett, I suppose his remit is getting Rangers in a position where Kenny, not only what Kenny says, but to find that gem every few years, but also to find guys that can be stable squad players, and guys like Kenny mentioned, the David Hagans, Gary McSwiggan, Stephen Presley. They were all the boys that were coming through under Walter's time, and he would have no issue throwing them in as well. So, you know, Neil Murray was also in there. He was the one that I was trying to think of. So there was plenty that used to make it round about Walter's time. But even when you look at his second time, Stevie Smith, Alan Hutton, you know, Danny Wilson, all these boys were put in by Walter as well. So Walter was, contrary to what people thought, Walter actually gave youth a chance where he saw fit, and he was a pretty good judge, was it, or Walter. But Rangers need to get in a position, Sheryl, where we're not spending £2 million on a centre half, because we have got one in there that can make the third, fourth, and really push the centre halves we've got, and that's going to take quite a while. But positively, we do have a new director of Rangers Academy, it seems.
Yeah. Do you know what? Why do you think that is, though? Because Kenny made the point, and I agree with him, and I think this is why this is not as exciting, but not as kind of, it's not going to have that immediate impact that Scott Fry will do. We'll be able to see within a few months, but maybe by the end of the season, whether the gamble on Scott Fry is paid off. We'll see how our set pieces have improved, how many more goals we've got. But as Kenny said, the head of the academy, that's a far more long-term thing. And the only worry is, historically, we've not done that well, or certainly in recent times, we've not been producing those players. So why is that, though? When you go back and you name all the ones, Stevie, that Walter had brought through, what's changed? Is it football's changed? Is it the demand? I seen somebody making a comment there that there's not the market for these players the way that Kenny suggested in Scotland anymore. So are we looking to move them on down south? We know that Newcastle were around the academy recently, but why is that?
I think you could argue, given where Rangers have been the last 15 years, that the gravitas that we had to get the biggest and the best ones are now possibly not there. You know, England has now in a position where they could go and offer, you know, Billy Gilmore at the age of 16, 17, ridiculously good money for his first term contract. Same with, you know, Davin Mabudi, who ended up going down there. The boys that have just went down to Newcastle, I've got that same kind of money, and paying £4,000 or £5,000 for them is what we would pay for a first team player or somebody on the verge of a first team player. So it's also, as Butler says there, it's a lot easier to drop youths into a team that is winning, and we haven't been. So I think Sheryl, potentially there's a kind of mix up of where we might be.
But even bringing those young players through, though, Stevie, when you listed off the young guys, the David Hagans, I seen Alex Lowry mentioned, Stevie Smith at the time, Alan Hutton, but we're not doing that as much now.
Yeah, that's undeniable. Let's though go back to this, the elephant in the room, so to speak, and it is Kevin Thelwell. The amount of new employees that have worked with Thelwell is really high. This is where it becomes interesting. That might work. It's quite fun, actually. That might work if you find somebody and they stay beyond your probation. You get £150 bonus. So I just wonder if Rangers have got the similar kind of setup, Kenny, that Kevin Thelwell is on a wee bonus for all these guys making it through their 90-day probation, with HR waiting in the wings for that one. So in all seriousness, the optics of it aren't great, and they aren't great because of the job that Kevin Thelwell has done. But I'll take you back to, again, Danny Rowe's press conference when Andrew Kavanagh spoke, along with Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, and he says we do encourage people to come with us and to come to us and tell us who their employees are, who people they know in the job, and so this doesn't really surprise me. Does it disappoint me? I suppose it does, but I've got to be honest with you. If Scott Fry didn't know Kevin Thelwell, I would still be excited about it because his numbers are there and it seems on paper like a good move. The fact that Kevin Thelwell gets him, if we're sitting here in a year's time and this boy's made an abundance of difference from set pieces, that'll be a masterstroke then by Kevin Thelwell, because we can't criticise him and not praise him at the same time, but it's all going to be dependent on what happens now. And Kevin Thelwell's in a really difficult position because everybody wants him out. There's absolutely no indication that Rangers Football Club, Andrew Kavanagh in particular, are going to move him on anytime soon, Kenny, because he's insulating himself with more people that know him, more people that he's worked with. And I just don't think it looks likely that change is going to happen. Patrick Stewart's a different position for me, but for Kevin Thelwell, I think it just shows you that Andrew Kavanagh is not only backing him and doubling down, he is cementing Kevin Thelwell's position at Rangers Football Club.
Yeah, it does look that way. The issue you've got there, Stevie, is if this doesn't go well, then we're in a hell of a predicament a year down the line when you're looking at it and saying, well, none of this has worked. That's the kind of issue or the concern that I've got. On the other hand, I'm looking at it and saying it is quite natural for somebody like in this position to bring people he's worked with. However, when you look at the sheer number of them, that's where I kind of worry that, you know, the prime example of his son, Robbie, as our new head of recruitment. And you look at it and think, of all the men in the world that we looked for in a head of recruitment, he was upstairs in the back room playing PlayStation. Really? I mean, that's the kind of thing that worries me about that. You're not looking too far. You're not going far and wide to find your son as that guy that can do that particular job. And he's certainly been promoted upwards, put it that way, seriously upwards, that kind of situation. The problem I've got with this is actually the optics and nothing else, because I'm going to be blunt and honest and say just about every single person that he's brought here, I don't know anything about them, really. I can't turn around and say I can categorically say he's good or bad. I don't know. I can only go on what you can read online or whatever about Purdy or his son, or you know, the boys that have come in today, but you can sit and do a bit of digging. It doesn't really tell you all that much. There's not huge amounts of information on these guys. So that it is the optics that really concern me, Stevie, more than the people themselves. Good luck to them. I hope they all are brilliant at their job. That's the point. However, when all you need to do is pick up your mobile phone and say, right, I'm going to get him for a job and him for a job, and just scroll down and get the next guy and scroll down again and you've got another guy, and that's on the face of it is how it appears. That's what my issue is. But I will reiterate that on every single appointment that's been made, I would say more than anything else, what you've said about Andrew Kavanagh, I understand. However, what I would say is the real positive of this is it looks to me as if there's been more jobs created than there were before, that they're actually properly implementing the infrastructure and building from the grassroots up almost. They've decided everything needs restructured at this football club, and we're going to do it whether people like the optics of it or not. That's what we're going to do.
Well, we clearly don't give a fuck about the optics, to be honest, mate. Given what we've seen so far, when you put your boy in, I think that's a measure, Sheryl, that they're not listening. But Andrew says, if Kevin Thelwell had been so rotten, then bringing in people he knows probably would not be an issue. We don't trust his judgment. There it is, in a nutshell. Well said, Andrew. I can't help but feel that, Sheryl, sums up exactly where we are.
Yeah, because if you look at his two major judgments, Russell Martin and the transfer business that he's done so far, he's a shocker on both of them. So, of course, we don't trust his judgment, and therefore, I think people are right to be concerned about who he's bringing in. I'll echo what Kenny says. I don't know very much other than the stuff I looked into around Fry. We don't know much about the people who he's bringing in, but we do know that he made a massive arse of bringing in Russell Martin. Nobody wanted him. He brought him in. He then described him, and I know he may have felt like he had to do this, but one of the best coaches that he's ever worked with. And God help us if that's the case. And then you look at his transfer business in the summer. I think a few weeks ago we had said we were maybe 50-50 with who he brought in. I don't even think we're that generous now on looking at who he's brought in and who's been a success and who's not been. So I think we're right to have massive kind of fear of his judgments and mistrusts of his judgments, but we just have to kind of now have a look at how Fry gets on. I think Kenny's right in terms of the infrastructure. I think he's doing the right thing, trying to get people into the positions. It's just whether we can trust them on who these people are.
Two things to look at here, Sheryl, as well. We think that Rangers are a massive football club, that we are all encompassing one of the biggest and best clubs in Britain and everything else. And history and things like that, we are. But that history was 20 years ago. And we need to face up to the fact that maybe we're having to shop around like this to get the infrastructure of a football club, because we aren't the all-encompassing Glasgow Rangers that we feel we are at this minute. And until we start winning titles and leagues and cups regularly, these guys aren't coming here. So the guys that are coming here, in fairness to them, Nathan Fisher, I think the boy is that's came from Everton as a chief scout and stuff like that. These guys are pretty decent in their jobs. They're good in their positions. They're not top tier, but we can't really expect to get them. But the other side of the coin, I think this is a really good point by Kelso as well. It says, if and when Rangers and Thelwell do part ways, that's a real problem for me. The whole infrastructure would most likely need replacing, because would then, you know, your chief scout, your son, and everything, would they all head out the door? You would expect them to, I would think. And so I think that's a reasonable worry perhaps to have.
Absolutely. And you know what? I need to be honest, that's something that I hadn't considered. But around your point, Stevie, about getting these top people in, I'm not so much bothered if they're considered top tier or not, but they need to be able to be good and productive in the job that we're giving them. So they might not be big names that get us excited or that lots of people have heard of. But do you know what? See if these guys come in and they make a positive difference to the team, to the club, then we'll get behind that. Again, it just comes back to the judgment of the person that's put them in that place. But if they can do a job for us, if they can get the infrastructure right, and they can get us winning on the pitch and get things sorted off the pitch, look at the academy, get things moving on that they maybe haven't been in the last 10, 15 years for us, then I think we'll all be behind it.
We certainly will. It is Nathan Fisher. I was just double checking that I got. So Rangers, this is where it becomes interesting for me as well. Rangers now have a new head of recruitment in Robbie Thelwell. We also have a new chief scout in Nathan Fisher, who went there in the summer to oversee the business in the summer. Kevin Thelwell shouldn't be front and centre of this anymore. He should be overseeing it, yes, but he shouldn't be front and centre. So come January, you know, if this was going to be a 3-4 window job, like they've said, and they've slightly misguided, then I'm looking for my new chief scout and head of recruitment, regardless of who they are, to really go and make their mark. Because if I was them, I would be saying, well, this is a fresh one for us. This is our opportunity to go and do this. So, like everything else, I think we all agree that the optics of it aren't great. And we're just going to, unfortunately, we've got no choice but to almost watch this unfold and hope that it goes well. If it doesn't, Kelso made the point, you know, the whole infrastructure might need ripped up again. So we'll just need to wait and see. But what we did see also this weekend, Sheryl Kenny, is that Kevin Thelwell spoke in an RTV piece. I said a wee bit about it yesterday. I'll say the same thing. It's a PR job from the club, but it's a welcomed one. Are we going to get him tied down and poked and prodded and told about his son and really held to the coals? No, perhaps we're not. But in there, Kenny, he did give us a lot of information. And the key thing he said was he expects to be fairly busy in the January transfer window. So fairly busy for me is 5 or 6 people. So whether that's in and out, what he deems as fairly busy is perhaps something that he needed to be, you know, perhaps pushed a wee bit more on. What is fairly busy to you, Kevin? Because fairly busy to us could be something completely different to him. But the positive thing is, if we're going to be active and we're going to be busy in January, then there's money there, there's things to be done, and they recognise that we have work to be done in there as well. Because thankfully, I mean, they could hardly not recognise it, but it is a positive, at least for me, that they are going to be active.
Yeah, they need to be active. If you look at last summer and you say that was extremely busy, I think fairly busy isn't busy enough. I think you're going to need to be busy in January. I don't expect 14, you know, in and 14 out kind of numbers like the summer. However, I would like to see at least 2 or 3 out the door and 4 or 5 in. And even block your squad till January. We need to finish in the top 2 in that league this season. We don't have any choice. The league is still strangely there for us, having had an absolute shit show of a season so far. That league is actually still there to be won because, you know, we've discussed it. We know that the situation, it's still there. The thing that I would say about what he said there is, I would have liked him to see him being pushed on what areas you're going to improve, what needs improved for you, you know, Kevin, in your opinion, what needs to be better? Because
I think that's the difference, though, isn't it, between like a fan media interview with Kevin Thelwell and a club PR thing, which isn't a criticism of the club because we like to hear that, but it's different kind of levels.
I don't think it's an unfair question for the club media to ask either, though, Stevie. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a fair question. What do you feel needs improved in the squad then, now that you've had a proper look so far? Because for me, that it needs improved in every department. It really does. I mean, we need a centre half, we need a left back, we need a number 6, we need for me, we need a striker. We could go on and on and on. However, the situation is that we are in a situation where we must be busy in January. So how busy we're going to be remains to be seen. But for me, fairly busy isn't going to be busy enough to use the word busy again, because I've used it about 10 times. But it's just one of those things. I really do believe that we're going to have to be right at it in January to make sure this squad is where it needs to be for the second half of the season. Because notoriously for us over the last 10 years, the second half of the season's harder than the first. So we need to make sure we're in a better position than we are at the moment.
I don't know if you guys heard it, but did you get the bit where he said that there had been a review and evaluation of what had gone well with the summer transfer window? That must have been the shortest review and evaluation of all time.
Yeah, that would have just been a bit of paper with JD Gassama's name written on it. I'm going to read this out because it's I want balance. I want other people's opinion on it. John says, we need to stop the persecution of Thelwell. Mistakes have been made and admitted to. We need to give him the opportunity to show he's learned from those errors. I don't mind that opinion, John, in the slightest, but the danger with that opinion is you're effectively allowing the person that put us in this position to make the same mistakes again. And I can't help but feel that's really dangerous. So, yeah, you go to January and Kevin Thelwell could flip this really quickly because he could have a really awesome January window, sign 3 or 4 that turn out to be sparkling. And perhaps, the introduction of Nathan Fisher and his son, Robbie Thelwell, are the master strokes that he needed to help him identify exactly what we need. He said something else, Sheryl, which I'm going to come to. And this was really important. It's been said several times, actually, but he did state that Danny Rule will have the final say on players coming in. This is at least the 3rd time he's reiterated this. He said it with Russell Martin, and he's doubled down on that. He's actually said that Russell Martin was solely responsible for a number of the transfers in the summer, which is a great way of just saying, look, they're all shite, and it was definitely Russell. But he's now saying that Danny Rule will get the final say, and Danny Rule's got to know some players. I would imagine that he would want in as a 6, as a centre back, as your left back, and things like that, because these things are urgently needed. So I can't help but hope that if Danny Rule is going to be majorly involved in these transfers, then he's going to have the knowledge as much as Nathan Fisher and everybody else is to try and get the right players for us.
Yeah. It's just whether they work up here or not, Stevie. That's my only concern, because I'm sure they looked at quite a few of the guys that they brought in over the summer, knew them from clubs that they'd seen them with down south, and thought they'd be great, but they haven't been a big fit. And I understand that January window can be a wee bit tricky as well. So it's just making sure that we get players in January that can actually hit the ground running, because like you say, the second half of the season can be even more difficult than the first half. I think it's dead interesting that he keeps saying that. He keeps going back to that, almost as if he now gets that people really think that he's to blame for what happened in the summer transfer window. I know he said he sat down, I think it was last week, and had a review of the team with Danny Rule, so they both identified what they were pleased with, what they thought needed improvement. So now this is when they do the next bit in January and actually show that they have a good idea of that squad and who we need to get in. Because like Kenny said, I think the only person you could say is doing better than they did last season, and it's all relative, is Jack Butland. That's the only position that we don't have a major worry about at the moment, but across the team, almost everywhere needs strengthened.
It certainly does, Kenny. He also spoke a wee bit about Trusty, and will he call him back to Trusty decision, VAR audio released. I'll be honest with you, and I'll be honest with everybody else. I can't be arsed talking about this again. I can't be arsed talking about Willie Collum. I can't be arsed talking about the tackle, the decision. He kicked him in the head. He should have been off the park. I think we're done and dusted there, Kenny, with regards to moving on. We are now getting into a really vital period. I'm excited about it. God help me. I don't know why I do it to myself. But we'll get 6 league games now, and we go into Livingston, Falkirk, Dundee United and Kilmarnock, then away, Hibs at home with Hearts away. This could be major for our football club before Santa Claus arrives, that, you know, we're in a position where it's make or break. And I think, you know, break and you can forget it, and you might even have to forget it for top two in this chase. If you can come through this period really strongly, then this is an exciting time. The players should be relishing it. Out of such a poor start, unbelievably, they're not out of it yet. And if they go on a run and they put together 3 results, which has changed the mood slightly, we have to take it one game at a time. But they should be excited about what's in front of them. They've got a real opportunity here to blast their way back into this league under Danny Rule, who, unfortunately, I'm beginning to think might have something about him, because I don't want to start believing in it all just to be slapped in the face again. But I like him. I think there's something there potentially. I don't know. Am I talking shite and just talk myself back into a huge letdown? We'll find out in the next few weeks. But as I said, this is going to make or break us, I suppose. Yeah, from here right up to the new year is going to be decisive for our season. There's no doubt in it. The 6 fixtures you've talked about, I would actually be looking to turn and being honest, I think we've got to win all of them. If you want to actually have ambitions to win this league, we're going to need to win every single one of them, go over to Parkhead and try and pick something up there as well. And if you could beat them, then you're going to be right in the mix. So you're looking at, what was that, 7 games until then. And I would be looking at that and saying, is it realistic? I don't know. The jury's still out for me on how good or strong this squad is. I think it's lacking experience. I think it's lacking physicality. I think it's lacking mentality. It's lacking an awful lot of things. However, for want of a better way of putting it, they are going to have to learn on this job, and we're going to see what some of these players are actually made of now, because this is that old proverbial can you do it at Stoke in a Wednesday night type of scenario. That's where they're going to find themselves now. Is it's not Stoke, it's going to be up at wherever, Aberdeen in a midweek and stuff like that. It's going to be a tough game, and they're going to find out an awful lot about themselves, this squad, and we'll find out more about Kevin Thelwell's ability to, you know, mould a squad, if you like. But the issue for me more than anything with this is that I don't trust them in that way. So I'm there. I'm like you. I think I see something in Danny Role. Do I see much in this squad? I'm not 100% certain. And I do think this is kind of crunch time for them over the next few weeks, because if we find ourselves out of the league completely, Stevie, I don't know, I'd ask the two of you, then what do you do if you're Andrew Kavanagh? Because on John B. Hall's comment the last time, allowing Kevin Thelwell to carry on with what he's doing, and it doesn't work, Andrew Kavanagh's going to be next in the eyes of the supporters. There's no doubt about it. So when it comes to January, if we find ourselves having an absolutely shocking next 6 weeks, if I'm Andrew Kavanagh, I'm very wary of giving him a penny. And actually looking at saying, I'm going to actually have to invest that next summer. So it's very difficult. It's a tough time for us at the minute. Yeah, it's a tough time, that's for sure, Sheryl. But with that also comes opportunity. They have opportunity there. But I can't disagree with what Kenny's saying. It's a 6 weeks, it could go one way or the other. And it might just break us. It might make us. And at the same time, I can't help but look at that squad and think, Ant-Man, Asgard, Miofsky, Chermiti, Rothwell, Giga, Max Aarons, they've all been absolutely shite. You could say on a handful of performances here and there, sporadically from one or two of them at times, maximum, nowhere near good enough. Kasama's been good enough. Moore's starting to come onto a game. It's majorly clutching to hope that we've looked at these players, seen something, and they've needed time. Perhaps some of them will start hitting form. Perhaps we could dig out form of one or two. They're not all going to make it. I don't think Rothwell or Aarons or Giga, etc., will make it here. But if you can get something out of some of those players, rebuild it a wee bit in January again, we're going to find out. This is the point of this run we have now, which also includes Braga and Ferencváros and Porto away in Europe. Is it's going to tell us, or it's going to confirm to us a lot, and it is. I can't help but go back to that make or break for not only the team but individuals as well. Because you come January and Miovski and Ant-Man and things haven't kicked on or haven't picked up at all, then the fans are going to say we should be moving these guys on. So it's crunch time, as Kenny put it, for quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And us as a team also.
Yeah, that's my worry though, because what do you do with these guys? What do you do with these guys that are very, very clearly just, they haven't settled at all, and if we give them up to January and then we go into the summer with them, and players like Asgard and Ant-Man haven't produced anything at all, then we need to try and get them moved on. The loan guys, it's fair enough, that'll be easy, you just send them back down the road. But what do you do with these guys that for us, you've invested quite a lot of money in? You look at our strikers just now, that there's nothing doing there at all. We've got 3 completely different strikers, but none of them we can rely on. Do you know, do you take a gamble by trying to move somebody on in January, even on a loan basis, try and get somebody else in? Mikey Moore's been a success. I think with some of these guys, for instance, Asgard, we looked at maybe was it the way that Russell Martin was using him, was playing him, what he was asking him to do didn't suit him, but we don't really have that anymore. Do you know, these guys, just a lot of them look like they're in the wrong movie. And my worry is, what do we do with them if we get to the summertime, if we get past January, we strengthen a wee bit, but these guys are still not contributing anything near what we need them to be able to do.
Well, the good news is that Yusuf Chermiti wants to get himself in the Portugal squad.
I know I want a date with Rob Edwards, but that's not really happening either, is it? So, although he'll probably get to Portugal before I'll get a date with Rob Edwards.
Rob Edwards just went to Wolves, didn't he? So is that, where was he before? Middlesbrough? Is that close? That's further away, isn't it?
I still think Chermiti will get to Portugal before I'll get anywhere near Wolves.
Listen, I'm honestly not sure about that. I think like you and Rob Edwards is more likely than Chermiti going to the Portugal squad, because one, you know, Chermiti would have to actually discover the ability to be a fucking footballer, and 2, you know, that would all need to happen quite quickly and over a sustained period. Maybe we'll wake up tomorrow and Chermiti will start a revolution that takes him to the Portugal squad for the World Cup. I would put money on you getting a date with Rob Edwards first, to be quite honest with you, Cheryl.
Just a disclaimer that Rob Edwards is married as well, and that was just a joke before there's any kind of scandal that comes from this pod that I'm not really needing.
Yeah, we don't need any more scandal, that's for sure. We've had plenty. Let's end it there, folks, on that note. A couple of thank yous to hand out to Sheryl and to Kenny for joining us this evening. I'll come back to them in just 1 minute. A huge thank you to Blackpool, to the gallant pioneer John and his team down there, who were fantastic hosts of us at the weekend on Friday night. We had a great time down there, and lovely meeting everyone as well. So thank you to them for having us down as a podcast. Being able to play the gallant pioneer in Blackpool was just such a tremendous honour for us, a real privilege, and we thoroughly appreciate it. We're off to Belfast at the end of March, which we can't wait for, to play a live pod in Belfast as well, which will be absolutely fantastic. And we are willing to take ourselves on tour, and we look forward to meeting lots of people. So that was a great privilege. Thank you to them, and thank you to all of you for watching. It's a Monday night, and there's thousands of people watching a podcast because we're all craving a wee bit of Rangers news, and we really love that. Thanks to all your comments. Thanks to everybody that gets involved. We try and show as many comments as we can. Can't show everybody's. It's just not possible, but we really appreciate them all. So if we don't show your comments, please just keep them coming, and I will see them. It's just a difficult thing to host and to read and to get everything up as well. So thank you to everyone that joins in. Thank you to everyone that's subscribed. There's nearly 700 people subscribing to the channel. We done a members only show yesterday, which we'll continue to do every alternative weekend or midweek. And we'll put that out there so the members can, it's a member show, they can direct it and ask and discuss whatever they want, and it's guided by them. We put it out yesterday as well for all the non-members to hear, which is a great reaction as well, which we really enjoyed. So thank you, everybody. We'll be back on Wednesday evening with Chris, Kenny and myself. But Sheryl, thank you for joining us. No wine tonight?
No, I'm just on the peppermint tea. I'm just keeping it calm. Save the wine for when we get closer to Rangers time, because that's probably when I'll need it more.
Yeah, I took to having a glass of milk when I'm podcasting now, such as the anxiety levels, Kenny. Thank you, mate, for joining us as ever. I'll see you Wednesday.
You will see me Wednesday. I want to say myself that I thoroughly enjoyed Friday night, thought it was cracking, and to everybody that was down there, I promise I will never mention David Murray ever again. And yeah, looking forward to Wednesday, mate. It was, but Friday was brilliant. It's a cracking show. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Let's end it here with Billy's final message. Can we resume this talk when Chermiti scores the World Cup winner? And then we can sell him for the 40 million that Thelwell and Andrew Kavanagh promised, and we will all live happy ever after. Sounds good to me, ladies and gentlemen. I could do with Chermiti just finding the net once or twice for us before we start thinking about World Cup winners. But a huge thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde View, Fire Protection and Joinery, Affluent Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Candide, and our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. A huge thank you also to John, who's our Sunday show sponsor. John was iSports Media, but he's had a bit of a change, so you will see them now on a Sunday. He's got a new local darts shop online. He fits and installs dartboards, etc. So you'll see that on a Sunday. It's not a new sponsor, it's just a change and something we're really looking forward to working with John. So you'll see that this Sunday. The Sunday show returns with Scott, Sheryl and all the gang. So aside of that, folks, have a great couple of days. We'll see you on Wednesday night. Chris, Kenny and myself. If you haven't, please like and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us grow, and we appreciate all your support. Have a great time. Take care. Bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde View Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.